know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power!
Make them clap to this.
To show our appreciation for your support.
Make them clap to this.
Thank you, DJs.
Make them clap to this. 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 Said it before, I never let the mic magnetize me no more, but it's biting me, fighting me, inviting me to rhyme. I can't hold it back, I'm looking for the line, taking off my coat, clearing my throat. The rhyme will be kicking in till I hit my last note. My mind remains to find all kind of ideas. Self-esteem makes it seem like a thought took years to build, but still say a rhyme after the next one. Prepared, never scared, I'll just
welcome back to Areva Martin in real time.
So Eric B, make him clap to this.
I'm your special guest host, Farajii Muhammad, sitting in for my sister once again. And we are embarking on a second hour, folks, of this show. And just had a very, very insightful and I think a very informative conversation with Jared Hill, the award-winning journalist and co-author and author, talking about some of the trending political topics. But I want us to switch gears a little bit as we talk about, we sometimes in the culture, so many things are happening, so much stuff is going on that you don't take a moment to reflect. And this is something that I push back on often, that when there are big cultural moments or anniversaries of or commemorations of cultural moments, that we don't take enough time to just reflect and think over. And so, we wanted to do our part here on Areva Martin in real time as we talk about the 10 years since the killing of young brother Michael Brown, who on August the 9th, 2014, he was walking with a friend. They were walking in the middle of Canfield Drive in Ferguson, Missouri, which was a 2-lane street in the St. Louis suburb. It was at that time when a police officer drove by and told them to use the sidewalk. And after words were exchanged, the white officer confronted 18-year-old Michael Brown, who was black. The situation escalated with the officer and Brown scuffling. The officer shot and killed Michael Brown, who was unarmed. Michael Brown's bloodied body remained in the street for 4 hours in the summer heat of 2014. People in the neighborhood later showed their displeasure, lashing out at the police, saying that they have not done well by removing his body or even covering the body. And that created a firestorm where Ferguson became the epicenter of police resistance. And it was a moment that I think all of us can kind of just reflect on. It was a moment where we really saw that no one truly cares about black bodies. And so it was that moment, along with a few other big moments. I remember the killing of Trayvon Martin in 2012. And then we had this. And so it created a domino effect where we had to come to grips with how police was treating black people, young black men, young black women in this country. We had to confront the policy that police had to adhere to in handling a situation like this. It just opened the doors and the conversations changed. But it didn't change so much. Let me just put that asterisk there. It changed, but not enough. It wouldn't be for another 6 years until 2020 where we started to see more mass protests, not just from black youth, from white youth, Latino youth. I remember being in the East Coast, being in Baltimore, seeing images and video and pictures of Latinos and white youth here in Los Angeles, showing their displeasure and disapproval of how the police was treating black people. So we wanted to do our part here on Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580, to have this conversation, to not just breeze past that particular day of August the 9th. I know today is August the 14th, but we didn't want to just breeze past that without having some real dialogue around not just policing in America, not just talking about, how to handle a body, but to have some real dialogue that will inspire us, that will inform us. We've already been angered. We don't need to go back down that road anymore. We can use anger as fuel, but we can't stay angry. And so we're going to do our part here today, God willing, to be able to have this conversation. So I am very excited and happy to be joined by Dr. Rob Biko Baker. And we got Brother Rob on the line. And Dr. Rob is going to just share with us his thoughts about this 10 years that has happened. He is a regular contributor in a lot of different spaces. He is one who teaches about the struggles of black people of African and African diaspora studies. He's a professor of the College of Letters and Science at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. And he's going to give us some of his insight, just kind of as we take a couple of minutes before we take our next pause, just laying down the frame, giving us the groundwork on how we should reflect and, most importantly, be empowered from this moment of 10 years since the killing of Michael Brown. And it has been less years since the killing of so many others who have been killed wrongfully and unjustifiably by police. So I want to give my brother Rob Biko Baker an opportunity to speak before we take our next pause. Brother Rob, thank you so much for joining me today here on Areva Martin Real Time on KBLA Talk 1580. How are you today, brother?
Doing well, brother. Thanks for having me on today. This is such a powerful platform, and I appreciate sharing what I've learned from the Ferguson moment with your audience. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share because I think it's more timely than ever. So
absolutely,
I'm excited to share with you, brother.
Absolutely. We got. I want to. I know we have about 2 minutes before we take our first next break. But I wanted to at least give you a chance to just share. It's been 10 years, Brother Rob, and it feels like it's been a lifetime since we've really lifted up the name of Michael Brown and honored him, and really to talk about that particular moment. Some of us may have even forgotten about what happened to Michael Brown. So why is it important for us to have a conversation about Michael Brown and what happened to him 10 years later?
It's so important to have this conversation so we don't forget our history. we live in a time in which the media is moving in 8-hour, 12-hour, 24-hour cycles. And we've already forgot that our president, our former president was almost assassinated. And so we got to keep coming back with the spirit of Sankofa to these moments so that we can learn and reflect. And, the day that Mike Brown was killed, I was in South Africa. And then, 15 days later, I was at his funeral. And I spent over a year in Ferguson, in and out, going from Milwaukee to St. Louis. And I learned so much of what still has not been told about the heart and courage of young Black people. And so we got to keep learning and telling the story.
And I'm so happy that you said that. I love the fact that you started off saying the spirit of Sankofa, which is the great spirit of looking back in order for us to move forward. And I truly believe that this is one of those moments, Brother Rob, where we must look back. It's easy to forget. It's easy to even choose that we want to choose. Oh, I don't want to think about that. That was the past. That was then. This is now. But I'm going to say this, and then we're going to take our first pause for this hour. I'm going to say that if you are choosing in 2024 to not think about these things that even happened 10 years ago, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are doing your own humanity a disservice. Because there's no way in the world that, especially, and I'm talking to Black folks, that as Black people, that we have the liberty to forget. We do not have that liberty. We cannot move as if we are not part of that we are not links that are part of a bigger chain. I'm going to just say it like that, Brother Rob. So look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to, get your take and analysis about this particular moment as we talk about 10 years since the killing of our little brother, 18-year-old Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. You're tuned into Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And I'm in the now, and it don't take no x-ray to see right through my smile. I know I'll be on the go, and it ain't no drink out there that can numb my soul. Oh no, all we wanna do is take the chains off. All we wanna do is break the chains off, man. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is take the chains off. All we wanna do is break the chains off, man. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is be free. Can you tell me why? Every time I step outside, I see my I'm letting you know that it ain't no gun they make that can kill my soul. Oh no.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
Are you wet shaving? You'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops, I'm good with Gillette Skin Guard.
How long you been growing that beard mama hates anyway?
Since 77. I shaved and got ingrown so bad.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturizer. So I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
The best a man can get keeps getting better with Gillette Skin Guard. Buy now at a retailer near you.
You're gonna feel a puff of air.
Jong's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downy are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/TC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And let's get back to the conversation that we're having with Brother Rob Biko Baker, who serves as the Assistant Visiting Professor for African and African Diaspora Studies for the College of Letters and Science at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. And Brother Rob, I gotta say that as we're talking about the 10 years since the killing of 18-year-old Michael Brown, I remember that time vividly because it, you know, to hear about the case, and again, coming from the East Coast and not being on the ground in Ferguson, not being in the space in the Midwest at that time. But I remember thinking to myself, you know, coming as one who comes out of the activist space, you know, the talk around policing was always present. And, you know, I come from the city of Baltimore in Maryland, and, you know, we've had our fair share of policing issues there. And so it was not uncommon. But I think the thing that struck me the most about young brother Michael Brown's death and case was the fact that the inhumanity, the inhumane way. And I remember thinking about that. Here it is in the month of August, in the middle of summer, and you just have a black body sitting on the ground for hours at a time. And this wasn't in some rural area of Ferguson. You got children outside. This happened during the daytime. And there were children playing. And I think it was like an apartment complex, if I'm not mistaken, Brother Rob. And just thinking, and I remember seeing the video images of this 18-year-old black boy whose body was just sitting there, not covered, not protected, not respected, just laying there. And it took our people in Ferguson, those brothers and sisters, our people in the apartment complex, I mean, they had to, even when the police arrived, they just kept the body uncovered. And it took our people yelling and screaming. I remember seeing a video. Our people had to yell and scream for them to even respect Michael Brown and his family by covering the body. All I kept thinking, big brother, was what type of madness is this? And looking at the timeline, because we were starting to see more and more of these cases. Like I mentioned Trayvon Martin. That took some momentum. But then this was also not too long after Eric Garner's death in New York City. Eric Garner, our brother who was choked out by the police in New York City for selling loose cigarettes. Talk to me, Brother Rob, because this thing can't ever be forgotten.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And unfortunately, we live at a time where we are sometimes duped by the mainstream media. But the reality is that police killings continue to go on the rise all across the country. And we can imagine that in a political environment where there's so much toxicity, intensity, and this, it can get worse. And so even, unfortunately, on just last Friday, I was in St. Louis, not to even honor Mike Brown, but just to go there for a family event. And I just so happens went to the Ferguson Police Department around 9 p.m. And by 12 a.m., there was complete chaos as police and the community fought. And unfortunately, there's a police officer that was on the Ferguson Police Department. His name was Travis Brown. He's a black man who was critically injured with a brain injury because even 10 years after Mike Brown's death, Ferguson continues to be lit. And we have to ask ourselves, why does it continue to be lit?
Yeah.
And I think a big part of the reason why it continues to be lit because the people that were the strongest, loudest, and the most intense during this moment have been sort of cast out of the narrative. They've been cast out of even the Black Lives Matter narrative oftentimes. And what I'm talking about is low income people of color, mostly men and women who are living on the margins. And unfortunately, until our people that live on the margins are centered in our conversation, we are going to continue to see this because they're oftentimes at risk and the most, least protected.
Absolutely. And it was one of those moments that I think that it started to crystallize for a lot of people that this is a problem. This was that moment I think really started to crystallize. Like I said, you had a Trayvon Martin situation, which, even though little brother Trayvon wasn't killed by a police officer, he was killed by a man who thought he was the police. He had a very, very, authoritarian mindset. And then you had Eric Garner. Then you had all of these other cases, right? And we know, Brother Rob, that even though you had and I'm just guesstimating here. I'm not I don't know the number, but I bet you for every high profile case of police death or police brutality, there are probably 10 that go unnamed, that are not recognized. And it might be more.
Come on now.
But
we live in a
go ahead,
to
brother.
capture some of that with ourselves. I was going to say we live at a time where we can capture some of that with our cell phones, so we're sort of blessed to even have that insight. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, brother. You're good. And you're exactly right. And the unfortunate part about this is that we have gotten into some real dialogues. And I, as an activist and as one who have been in these certain spaces, I remember meeting the family of Michael Brown. And as one who has heard some of the conversations about police reform and policing and listening to some of the families, there are families that are fighting other families just to get attention. Just to get attention to their child's case, whether it's a mother fighting for her son, a mother fighting for her daughter's case, a father fighting for his son or daughter's case, an uncle fighting for his niece or nephew's case, just to get the attention that some of these other cases have gotten. Even though some of these high-profile cases did not end in any type of real consequences for those officers, just the fact that their names are spoken in the public discourse around policing and police brutality brings some sense of comfort and solace to these families because they know that their loved one will not be forgotten. So we got a quick moment, but I want to kind of get your take on that. What do you make of that? That as black people, we have to fight to even be recognized. We have to fight to not be forgotten. How do we handle that?
Well, I think the unfortunate reality is we live in America that has for 400 years not really wanted to honor our humanity. You know, they encoded it into the law, brother. It's in there in the law. We can go look at it in the Constitution. And the only reason why we have some type of leverage in society is because we have always fought. And I think, unfortunately, we are a traumatized people, all of us, even white people that live in America that ancestors go back. They're traumatized by the history of slavery and oppression and Jim Crow. And we struggle to have these conversations. And so our systems, our communities, our loved ones are infected with this sickness. And Ferguson was a moment where the youth, you know, young people that had the courage to stop being beat up, stood up. And just like in the biblical times, we talk about, you know, Jericho and the people walking around, you know, 7 times, these young people use their voice. And I feel like they are not given credit enough for their courageousness. And I have so many stories of young 16, 17, 18-year-old people who risked their lives many times just to make sure that the story would be continued to be put in the mainstream news.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation with my brother, Rob Biko Baker, who is a professor, and he is one who has given us his analysis about the 10 years since the killing of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Folks, stay with us. The conversation continues here on Areva Mart in real time here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. A severe strain of Mpox is spreading across several African countries. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention declared a public health emergency on Tuesday after large outbreaks of the disease, formerly known as monkeypox, were reported in West and Central Africa. Officials say while Mpox outbreaks across the world have largely been contained, the outbreak currently happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is worsening and is a more severe strain of the disease. It has also reportedly spread to at least 4 countries in East Africa. Former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick will address the Oakland County GOP Lincoln Day dinner next week. The former Democrat has become a supporter of former President Trump after Trump freed him from federal prison at the end of his term. Kilpatrick, who is black, was sentenced to 28 years in federal prison in 2013 after being convicted of corruption and was freed in 2021. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Over in Irvine, 3 left lanes are currently blocked with an accident and stop delays up to 40 minutes from Highway 133 on the 5 North before Culver Drive. Watch for heavy traffic on the 22 East and Garden Grove as an accident is on the right shoulder just after Harbor Boulevard with heavy traffic forming from Euclid Street. Irvine's 405 North before Sand Canyon Avenue. Watch for an accident on the right shoulder and a slight delay running heavy from Highway 133. Then back in LA County in Montebello, watch for a stalled big rig currently blocking the right lane of the 60 East after Wilcox Avenue, and stop traffic from Indiana Street continues over 30 minutes.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer custom-made faux wood and real wood blinds and shutters, cellular shades, Roman shades, bamboo shades, exterior shades, and more, all at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
Is this the tackle? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers take a 5-game winning streak into tonight's game in Milwaukee. They are 2-0 since Mookie Betts returned to the lineup on Monday. Mookie was out 7 weeks recovering from a broken hand. Florida A&M is the only HBCU school that landed in the FCS preseason top 25 college football poll. FAMU is ranked 25th. The Rattlers were 12-1 last season and finished as the Black College Football National Champions. Shout out to my alma mater, Illinois State University. The Mighty Redbirds are ranked 20th in the FCS poll. A little more perspective on Colin Kaepernick's desire to return to the NFL. At 36, Kaepernick is the same age as 3 NFL starting quarterbacks. The Rams' Matthew Stafford, Atlanta's Kirk Cousins, and Russell Wilson with Pittsburgh. New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers is 40. If somebody gives Kaepernick a chance, his age should not be a factor. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, yo, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
With reported hate crimes rising in recent years, California has responded through outreach efforts across state government and in collaboration with community-based organizations for the launch of CA versus Hate. This non-emergency, multilingual hate crime and incident reporting hotline provides an anonymous reporting option for victims and witnesses of hate acts reported in 15 different languages through the online portal and in over 200 languages when calling the hotline. Report anonymously by calling 833-866-4283, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or online at any time at cavshate.org.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us for a book party celebrating The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. Almost 2 decades ago, the Covenant book, compiled and edited by Tavis Smiley, climbed to number 1 on the New York Times bestsellers list and stayed there for weeks. The first book by a black-owned publisher to achieve such a feat. The urgency of the issues that matter most to black fellow citizens has only intensified, especially in this critical election year. On Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m., come meet Tavis Smiley alongside Covenant contributors including Cornel West, Connie Rice, Mark Ridley Thomas, Elisa Orduna, Tyrone Howard, and Melina Abdullah as they sign copies of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. You can purchase your books on site and get them autographed. That's Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m. in the city of Los Angeles. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And folks, we are listening to Rob Biko Baker, who is a professor at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. He is talking to us about the 10 years since the killing of Michael Brown. Our brother is a professor in the College of Letters and Science for the African and African Diaspora Studies Department at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. And we're happy to have him joining us today as we talk about 10 years since the killing of our little brother, 18-year-old Michael Brown. And it's understandable if Michael Brown has not been at the forefront of your mind. And that's the beauty of having a space in a place like KBLA Talk 1580. We'll just remind you of these things in a very, very loving way, so that way we can stay connected. And I think, as our brother Rob Biko Baker has said beautifully, that in the spirit of Sankofa, that we look back to give us a vision on how to move forward, that we cannot forget of these forget these pivotal moments in our sojourn in this country, in this place, that we cannot forget these things, that even though progress seems to be the order of the day, and some of us may say, oh, we've made great progress. Do you know that there is still, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Brother Rob, but as far as I know, there is still no federal database of police-involved killings of black and brown people in this country. There had to be newspapers and outside resources to compile this information. But there's no federal database. And like I said, if there is, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but keeping track of these things. And so I want us to at least talk about, in this part of the conversation, Brother Rob, when we're talking about how policing has improved in this country, or is there still, you know, since the killing of Michael Brown in 2014, that are we still in the same place? Are we moving further along? What's your take on that, big brother?
That's an interesting question, because I think it's, you know, locality by locality. I think in a big picture way, we have very much, you know, improved our ability to have leverage in a conversation, to shape and shift, you know, justice departments. Unfortunately, we're building up, you know, against hundreds of years of culture and oppression. And so, you know, we move forward 10 steps and we move back 6. And I think that's a big reason why, you know, critical race theory, the pushback against Black history, all this is taking place because they want to give the populace deja vu and make them really believe that, you know, racism isn't still really prevalent. And unfortunately, people may have gotten less racist. I look at my students and I saw a lot of white people out there fighting for George Floyd. A lot of my students were out there, a lot of white students. But at the same time, if we're not vigilant and we don't continually get loud and, you know, push back, they will come get our rights and they will lovingly take it. Yeah. And so that's why we got to be vigilant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been reported, Brother Rob, and I'm sure you've probably seen this as well. It's been reported that now Senate Democrats are looking to reintroduce the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act following the killing of our sister Sonia Massey, the 36-year-old black woman who was shot and killed in her home, I would say, you know, point blank range by a sheriff's deputy in the state of Illinois. And so now Senate Democrats are looking to, again, reintroduce the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The ACLU is applauding the effort, and others are applauding the effort. The NAACP has applauded this effort, and talking about there needs to be something done, because since that time, there has been a lot of conversation. There has been mass protests, and I'm saying since 2014, there has been mass protests. There has been some changes in some departments for example, and I'm sure you know this too, Brother Rob, in the city of Ferguson, in the suburbs of Ferguson, Missouri, they had to, I remember President Obama sending Attorney General Eric Holder and had to essentially clean house in the Ferguson Police Department to in order to build the police force back up from the ground. They had to clean house, and they do that. And these things are happening, but I'm talking about public policy. Public policy. I'm going to say this once again. Public policy that not just speaks to a district, not just speaks to a county. Public policy that just doesn't speak to a state. Public policy that speaks to the whole country, that creates a mandate, that creates a criteria by which these police departments can operate under, right? That will hold police officers accountable and responsible for the actions that they have and the terror, not just for the actions, the illegal actions, but the terror that they have rained on black and brown communities in particular all across this country. We can go down. Each police department in this country has blood on their hands, Brother Rob. Every single one of them. And it's not enough to say, well, there were just quote unquote bad actors in the department. It's not enough. We need public policy that will hold these departments accountable. And that's why the work of our brother, Attorney Ben Crump, is important. He gets all of these big, high-profile cases, but I remember explicitly listening to Brother Ben and saying that part of his job is to break the bank. They want to break our necks. They want to break our backs. We want to break the bank. So that way these counties and these cities and these towns, they can feel, because sometimes you just got to hit a joker in the pockets. You know what I'm saying, Brother Rob? And he made that point that he's not there to talk about, to not just render justice, but in terms of getting a certain officer locked up or fired, but he's trying to break the bank. So that way, the next time an officer thinks about killing a black person, there are going to be some financial consequences that's going to have to be felt. Talk to me about where we stand on that public policy piece, brother.
Well, I believe that Attorney Ben Crump is doing God's work. I know a lot of times people confuse the civil and the criminal cases, and they think because we're not getting justice in the criminal case that, Attorney Crump is on those cases, and that's not the case. Attorney Crump was one of the first that I saw to embrace Mike Brown's family. Before all of the national narratives, all the national news, he was there and supportive, and he's got a really important role in our movement, and he's become an influence in our community too, online, and I really appreciate his leadership and courage, because I know they don't like him. Oh, I know they don't like him when he shows up to a community, so I appreciate his effort and his team's effort as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But, federal policy is important, I think, because America needs resolution. By 2040, people of color are going to be the majority. And when we see people, when we see people of color, we know black people are in the mix, and our history has to be resolved in order for America to move forward. But unfortunately, there are still elements in police departments. You got these rogue elements like the Mississippi Goon Squad, that's out there really trying to create terror out there. And so until we can have resolution, these jokers can still get away with what they're doing. And that's why I think we got to be vigilant every time a young person dies, and we know I was never a defund the police type person, because I come from the crack era and I know how it goes down. But at the same time, we have to stop letting these unjust killings, just go out into the ether. And that's why I think we got to be vigilant. We got to speak their names. We got to continue to say their names, and we got to keep doing what we're doing. We can never let the name of Mike Brown die. We can never let Trayvon Martin's name die. We can never let Sandra Bland's name die. This our role to keep being loud about it.
And we can't forget very quickly, Brother Rob, as we take our next pause, we can't forget that you got a presidential candidate by the name of Donald Trump, who promises to give police immunity from prosecution. He said that. He said that, quote, we're going to give our police their power back. He said at a rally in Wisconsin, he said this on many occasions, and he said we are going to give them immunity from prosecution. Immunity, meaning that they're going to be protected from being held accountable. That means that they're going to be protected from feeling the consequences of bad decision making. They're going to be protected from beating the bodies of black people, shooting and killing black people. They're going to be protected. And when I hear black folks talk about, oh man, Trump, remember that. Remember that part. That if a police officer pulls your black self over and Trump is in power, then that there is a very real likelihood that that police officer can do ill will against you, and at the end of the day will not be held responsible, accountable, or not feel any consequences for their misdeeds. We got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with Rob Biko Baker here on Areva Martin in real time. I'm Farajii Muhammad. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take our auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $2,860 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8% plus finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to my brother Rob Biko Baker, who is a professor, and he's a fantastic professor in the College of Letters and Science in African and African Diaspora Studies for the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. Brother Rob, we're talking a little bit about, I ended the last segment just talking about Trump and his promise of immunity, police being held, getting immunity from prosecution. I mean, we're still fighting 10 years later for police accountability. And I'm going to throw it to you, but I just wanted to make this quick note. There is a powerful documentary that's on Netflix called Power. And it's about policing in America. If you haven't had a chance to check this documentary out, you should. Because it talks about the institution of the police department in America. Of course, it talks about the history of the police. But just that how much power the police department truly wields when it comes to government in America. Police is the police department is one of the few institutions in our country where you have very little to no say about how they operate. Yet in cities, states across this country, police departments are given so much of municipal budgets, 40% of the budget for various municipalities, various towns, cities, counties, all of this money in the name of public safety. Yet, it's also one of the few institutions that have accountability measures. It's also like you can't go into, if you're a doctor or if you're a lawyer, there are certain rules and regulations that, you would get disbarred if you as a lawyer, you lose your license. When have you heard that type of consequential action being taken against police departments? I'm going to leave that right there. As my brother Tavis often say, I digress. Brother Rob, talk to me. Where do we go from here as we're looking at 10 years and we're still seeing that we're still fighting for accountability, responsibility. We're still fighting for the police to respect the life and bodies of black people in this country?
Well, I think you hit it on the head right before we went to break. And I think voting is important. Definitely at the presidential level, if you can't tell the difference between the two candidates and their agenda, I encourage you to study the Central Park Five, which is now called the Exonerated Five.
Facts.
So you can know the toxicity of the other candidate towards our community. But we have so much power at the local level when we engage. Even in Ferguson, they've had black police chiefs, and they're able to
4 to 5
shift
police
the narrative.
chiefs. Four police chiefs in 5 years, Brother Rob.
Come on now.
Four police chiefs in 5 years in Ferguson, and they just got their first black police chief and mayor in Ferguson after all this time. And just very quickly, Ferguson is 65% black.
Come on now. But it doesn't. We're not going to get these changes right away. We're talking about hundreds of years of culture. That's why I think the vote and really lifting it up is very important. So I'm left of center. Some people would consider me a radical, but on election day in November, we got to be there. Whether it's the presidential, local level, that's got right. to be there because that's our leverage and our juice.
Absolutely. And I think we have to feed off of good information. My brother Andy, who is our engineer, him and I were just talking offline, and I think it's important that as we have these conversations, right, we often talk about bias, right, in the reporting, bias in how we present the information. Look, let me just keep it real. This is a progressive black talk radio station. Black folks always want to check you. Brother Rob, black folks always want to check you and say, well, why don't y'all present the other side? The other side has been presented. We're not feeding off enough of this side. We're not getting the vitamins from this yet, from what's on this plate. If we're talking about changing the mindset of the people, and part of this, I think, Brother Rob, and I think you can appreciate this because you're working in the intersection of tech, culture, public health, and the public health side. I remember Brother Tavis had a guest on his show a couple of weeks ago, a black man who was a forensic pathologist. He was the chief of forensic pathology for the District of Washington, D.C., and this brother proposed that police brutality should be a public health crisis. A public health crisis, not just a political crisis, but a public health crisis because of the impact that it does to one's mentality and one's view of authority after years of abuse, after years of trauma and brutality. And I thought that this was such a different idea, a progressive idea, because it forces us to reorient our thinking to understand how to see this thing. And I got like a minute left, Brother Rob. But what do you make of that? That as much as we talk about the policy side, George Floyd Justice for Policing Act, that the real change starts with how we see, the frame in which we see this issue. Should this be a public health crisis?
I mean, I think violence is a public health crisis, and this is part of the violent cycle. And so we have to. We got generational trauma.
Come on.
Every time I get by the police, I get nervous. Every time the police get behind me, I'm 46 years old.
Yeah, brother.
I got my bills paid. I ain't doing nothing wrong. I get nervous. What does that do to my system, to my health? And so, yes, sir, I'm with that. And anything Tavis is doing, I'm there to support.
I hear that, brother. I hear that. His name is Brother Rob Baker. He serves as the assistant visiting professor for the African and African Diaspora Studies Department for the College of Letters and Science at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. Brother Rob, talk to people. How can people find out about the great work you're doing?
Well, I'm going to plug two films that I was part of. One is Stranger Fruit. It's the story of Mike Brown, how there was a cover-up. And there's another great film called Who Streets. It highlights the work of the protesters and the people that fought back. Check those films out, and, you did enough to link up with me.
And where can they check those films out at, Brother Rob?
They're online, anywhere, streamers, YouTube, Amazon, Apple TV, anywhere you watch your documentaries, you can find us, except for Netflix, but anywhere else.
That's a blessing right there. Brother Rob Baker, we truly appreciate your work, and as Brother Tavis said, your work and witness, but more importantly, we appreciate your time to join us for this conversation today, and I look forward to reconnecting with you soon. But thank you so much for being with us here on Areva Martin in real time here on KBLA Talk 1580, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Folks, that is going to do it for us. Fantastic 2 hours, but more importantly, it has been a fantastic few days that I've had the opportunity, the privilege, and the pleasure to sit in the seat of my dear sister, Areva Martin. So I want to thank her publicly for once again giving me the opportunity to talk to you. Make sure you continue to show your support for KBLA Talk 1580. Follow us on all social media. Make sure you follow us. Go to our website, download the app. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube podcast and our streams that we do. But more importantly, just stay informed and stay connected, because we are having those conversations that we need to have. And guess what? We're not blacking down. Big shout out to Brother Tavis Smiley. Congratulations. He's having his book signing tonight. So if you have the tickets to join Brother Tavis and all of those great thinkers, we look forward to seeing you this evening. But we know that work of the 20 years of the covenant is something that we need, especially in this day and time. And I'm just so happy that our brother is putting out this work for us to examine, and more importantly, to us to use as a vision for our people. That's going to do it for me. I thank each and every one of you for tuning in, and stay tuned. Up next is the Rob Report with my sister Robin Ayers. Have a great evening. Talk to you soon. Peace.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Mayor-President of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Sharon Weston Broome, says a proposed sales tax in the breakaway city of St. George may be unconstitutional. Broome, who is black, sent a letter to St. George Mayor Dustin Yates expressing her concerns. The letter said the tax proposed by the city's temporary government would need to be authorized by both St. George voters and by state lawmakers. Former President Trump is addressing